Here we are at Travelz, and if you've listened to the show fairly regularly, you'll know that we've got a soft spot for our bush resorts, particularly those that offer a little bit of a more upmarket experience, a slightly different experience. Which is why today we're chatting to Richard Delaray and Lauren Ritchie, who are from Rare Earth Retreats, and they're here to talk about an estate in the Waterberg called Welgevonden, where you have two different, how would you say, lodges, I suppose. Yeah. Welcome to the show. Okay, right. Let's begin right at the beginning, Richard. What are we looking at here? What are your lodges? Where are they? What's the basic rundown?
We've got two lodges, Tweni Lodge and Egetuleni Lodge, obviously sister lodges. They're situated in the heart of the reserve, in the middle of Welgevonden itself. It's a big reserve. It's 35,000 hectares, and both lodges sleep 10 people. So 5 suites each. We've also got a honeymoon suite at Tweni Lodge, and recently built a family suite at Egetuleni.
Right. Now, one of the things about Welgevonden is it's heavy on the conservation, which means that it's the kind of thing you're not allowed to drive your 4x4s around in the bush. You're not allowed to drive even your private car onto the property. It's there's quite a big focus on this kind of thing. How is this an advantage?
Absolutely. The reserve itself decided that they didn't want any private vehicles driving around in the reserve. So what happens is guests will arrive at the main gate, where they'll be collected by the individual lodge. They'd be served snacks and drinks before they head off back to the lodge, which is about 45 minutes to an hour drive. And their cars are safe at the main gate. There's 24-hour security. But and that is part of the focus of conservation of Welgevonden. But like you say, they're big into the conservation side of things. Everything is very well monitored, and they've done a great job to bring it from where it was launched in the 90s to where it is today.
Right, okay. Lauren, it is a Big Five resort. It's the kind of thing that I know people have said, oh, you can't drive off-road now, you're never going to see any of these things. But everybody I know who's been has actually had some sort of Big Five experience. Have you been recently? Have you seen what are the things you've done there?
I tend to go once a month, and we have a saying whenever we leave Welgevonden that it never ceases to amaze. I've seen some of the greatest sightings I've ever seen in my life at Welgevonden. You can't go off-road, but the animals are quite used to vehicles, so they're generally very, very close to you. I've seen cheetah fights. I've seen elephant bulls walk up to the lodge, and I'm standing on the deck right beneath me. So it really is absolutely incredible. And being malaria-free is just an added bonus.
Right. And one of the things I saw on your website that you're selling is the idea of sitting in your pool and actually having the wildlife kind of right there in front of you, which is a big deal. I think people tend to imagine fences and being kept at a distance from these things. Okay, so what would your average day at the lodges encompass?
Well, you'd wake up, be woken up by your guide. In summer, it's a little bit later. And, in winter, it's a little bit later. Summer is probably about 5:30, 6. You have tea and coffee and fresh scones and muffins and go out on your morning drive, depending on what you see. You'll stop for a sunrise hot spot with rusks and tea and coffee and Amarula hot chocolate if you want. Continue your drive and come back for a beautiful breakfast. You'd then relax in your room for 2 or 3 hours, depending on what you would like to do. Have a massage, lie by the swimming pool, and then lunch is served, and you've got about another hour to relax before you go on your evening game drive with Sundowner Spot.
Right, okay. And Richard, obviously you say that the food, there's a breakfast and lunch. You mentioned these are a big portion of the food's obviously an important aspect of these things. I saw you mentioned your wine cellar as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, food and wine are very important at a lodge. It's the small things at lodges that differentiate you from other lodges. There tends to be a mentality sometimes where a lodge is a lodge, and it is those small things. And we've recently done a lot of training on wine and food at the lodges. I think it's something that you need to keep staff up to scratch with, and just make sure that they all know what they're doing and improving all the time, because that's what the guests do notice. Yes, the game viewing, like Laurie said, is hugely important. People go to a game lodge for the game viewing, But to differentiate yourselves from the rest of the crowd is on your food and your wine and staff service in itself.
And I suppose the service is pretty good, given, as you said, there's only space for 10 people at each of the lodges.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a hell of a lot easier to have a great level of service when there are fewer guests. But yeah, in saying that, our sister lodge in the Kruger National Park, we've got it can sleep 24 guests, the Outpost. And yeah, you got to be on the ball when when you serving 24 guests. It's you've got to know what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, there's only space for 10 people at each of the lodges. This means that space is at a premium. How soon in advance must people book? How far do you advise?
Depending on the time of year, for instance, this weekend it's by pure miracle. We probably have about 3 rooms left.
Oh, right.
But I would say in winter, about a month before. Okay. But December now, we've been full for about 6 months.
Right, okay. So there you are. If you wanted to go away for Christmas, sorry.
Midweeks are a little bit, are quite a lot easier to get into. So it's quite a nice breakaway. And it's I prefer midweeks because it's not so full. So
right. Well, one of the things we always say here is go during winter. You know, as you say, it's only a month kind of notification period. But winter's when all the bushes died back. You can actually see the animals go. Exactly. This is one of those things. Okay, so what sort of tips do you advise to people who are coming up there? What must they bring? What's the weather like? What's the...
Well, right now, winter in the Waterberg is very cold. The days are absolutely beautiful. It's much like Johannesburg, I guess.
Okay.
So early mornings and the evening game drives, you're going to need a jacket and a jersey and a scarf. But then during the day, very, very, very pleasant days, very mild days. Summer, once again, much like Johannesburg, thunderstorms, beautiful, beautiful days, warm days. Not exceptionally warm, 30, 35 degrees. And then, summer, I think it's, shorts and a T-shirt will do just fine.
I suppose that makes sense. It's only, 2.5 hours away?
Correct.
Right, is that okay? All right. So it's well within range if you live in Johannesburg. How do people book? How do they go about making sure they get there?
You'd have to contact our reservations office. Our telephone number is 011 327 3920, or you could contact May at rareearth.co.za.
Okay, well, there you are. Are you on social media? Obviously, this being an internet station, what are the Twitter accounts, Facebook fields?
Ekutleni Lodge is on Facebook and on Twitter under Ekutleni Lodge, and Tweni Lodge the same, Facebook and Twitter. Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to be putting up those names just so that you can get the spelling absolutely 100% correct on our Twitter feed. And we're going to be chatting to you guys a little bit later about some other properties that you got. As you mentioned, you've got some other things around the country.
Correct.
We'll be talking to you shortly after the break. And we're back on Travelz. We're still talking to the wonderful people from Rare Earth, Richard Delaray and Lauren Ritchie. We're going to be talking now about 2 of their other properties. Firstly, let's keep with the bush theme, and let's talk about Outpost, because you briefly mentioned them during our last chat. It's in Kruger National Park.
Correct.
So give us a basic introduction.
Warren, it's situated in the northern Kruger. It's an exceptionally beautiful part of the Kruger National Park. It's essentially unlike anything else in Kruger. And the reason I say that is because we've got fever tree forests, baobabs, riverine forest. We've got floodplains, mountains, gorges, you name it. And in addition to that, it's largely a section of Kruger that was unavailable to the public until recently. Well, until 2000, in fact, when the outpost was built.
Right.
So it's a 26,000 hectare concession. It's actually called the Makuleki Contractual Park, but to the public they'll know it as Pafuri. And it's about a 6.5 hour drive from Johannesburg. It's also accessible by clients can fly into Palabora and then do a lodge hop from Palabora up to Punta Maria, and then we'll collect them at the airstrip there.
Right.
Just to give you a bit of history, it is a land claim area, and we're basically leasing it from the Makuleki people. We've got a 45-year lease. And we built the outpost there, 24 beds, 12 spaces as we like to call them. and I'm sure from the pictures that Lauren showed you, you can see it's better. It's more pertinent to call it a space than a suite.
That's absolutely right, because it's one wall and 3 open sides, and it sort of hangs out over the edge of a cliff. Yeah?
Absolutely. The architecture is something that definitely attracts guests, and in addition to that, obviously the fauna, flora, and the topography.
And as you say, the kind of rareness of it, the inaccessibility of it, the fact that people haven't really had a chance to go there.
Absolutely, and also the wilderness factor. It's not densely populated like Southern Kruger. And yeah, besides ourselves, there's 2 other concessionaires, but as far as lodges are concerned, they've gone with other concepts other than what we have at the Outpost.
Right, so entry level is what you don't want to say there. You're being polite. Okay, but
yes.
No. Let's be blunt. I want listeners to know exactly what's going on here. Okay, so tell us again. It's the kind of thing. Can you get there by road? I mean,
absolutely.
Okay,
it's easy as pie. You drive straight up the N1. You go through a toll gate called the Baobab toll gate, and you turn right and you go in at the Pafuri gate. That's the easiest way, and it takes approximately 6.5 hour drive. So it's no different than driving to the Timbavati, Southern Kruger, any of those areas,
or to Durban.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, all right. So now you've obviously you're focusing more on a kind of luxury element, as Lauren said during the break. There's the bedding's important, and because it's obviously open during winter, you've got important considerations when it comes to the weather.
Yes.
But so what is it like there? What can people expect when they arrive? What's the level of?
Well, it is a 5-star lodge. They can expect our guides are extremely knowledgeable. They have to be extremely knowledgeable of the area. It's very different, like I said, to anything else. And we actually take guides. There is a training facility in the area too for guides. So normally what we try and do when we sourcing guides is source them from the training facility called Eco Training. And yeah, there's a hell of a lot to see in the area, and it's a hell of a lot to explore. It's 26,000 hectares, and the diversity is what people come to see.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, I suppose being privately guided is a good start and a good way to try and get
Absolutely.
a way to actually get in there. Okay. How do people book for that? Is it done through, again, your website? Is it?
Quite correct. Done through the website or on the number that Lauren gave earlier.
Right, you can feel free to give it again.
It's 011 327 3920.
Okay. Well, there you are. Okay, so that's Outpost. Your other property is something totally different. It's not a bush property. It's what you described as being a polo resort and wine estate.
Correct.
It's called Rare Earth Wines.
It's called Rare Earth Vineyards. There is another company called Rare Earth Wines, but just by pure fluke, and they're not associated to us. So we Rare Earth Vineyards, and it is a working polo and wine farm. So we create our own Sauvignon Blanc and our own MCC, which is called Sav and Shampoo. A little bit of tongue-in-cheek there. But we re-established the old farmhouse and modernized it, but kept the charm and authenticity of it. So it's a 5-bedroom house, which you would take on an exclusive use basis, self-catering, or we can organize a chef for you. And it's situated in the crags, so it's up against the mountains in what is arguably one of the most beautiful areas of the country as well. In the middle of the garden route, you're 25 minutes away from Plate Main Centre. And the horses are around you in all the paddocks. The cows roam the fields, and then the vineyards sort of roll underneath your feet.
I suppose there's a large complement of staff there already. I mean, you say
Correct.
You take it on exclusive use basis, but you're taking it with.
No, of course, there's staff. There is no chef unless you require one, then we bring one for you. It's fully serviced, tea and coffee is included, but there's not butlers waiting on you everyone.
Right, okay. But no, it is slightly different to the other things. How do people get there? What's the...
So, you sort of get there by self-drive, so you can either fly on Seme into Plate directly and rent a car and drive straight to the lodge, like I said, 25 minutes, or you can fly to PE or George, or drive if you live near there. Reservations is the same. You'd contact us at www.rareearth.co.za and make a booking online. And yeah.
Okay.
Simple
Now
as that.
again, it's one farmhouse. It's one kind of thing that's taken on exclusive use spaces. Is it the kind of thing that is booked out 6 months, a year in advance? If people want to go Christmas next year, should they be thinking about booking it now?
It's a fairly new property, so we
Okay.
haven't. It hasn't been sort of officially launched into the market yet,
Oh,
although
really?
it is
Okay.
available. So yeah, the availability is still quite open at this stage. Christmas is looking a little bit busy, but you're more than welcome to pop in for wine tastings, which we do on the farm as well.
Right. Well, there you are. So if you want to sell a sports car and and go somewhere decent for Christmas, there is still an option. That's amazing. Okay. All right. So let's just sum up then what the properties are. That's Rare Earth. You said rareearth.co.za. Is that right? Okay.
Correct.
And there's the Outpost and Rare Earth Vineyards. And then there's obviously the two different concessions at Velgevonden as well.
Trini
So
and
there's
Ekuatuleni,
there's a
correct.
lot of option there as far as things. Thank you very much for coming into studio and helping us and chatting and giving us some sort of idea into our lifestyle. I don't think I'm ever going to afford, but it's wonderful having you guys in.
Well, just talking about that, we do have South African residence rates, so we understand that
Okay.
South Africans do like to go to the bush. So
Marvelous. Okay, so if people have some extra questions, how do they find you on Twitter? How do they find you on Facebook?
on Facebook, we under Rare Earth Country House, Rare Earth Vineyards, Trini, Ekuatuleni, and the Outpost.
Right, so you can basically just type in anything,
Any of
really.
those, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
And personally, are you guys on Twitter? Do you want to sell your Twitter accounts? Do you want some followers?
I'm
I
not on
You've
Twitter.
never heard of
it's
Twitter
not,
before
it's
in
not
life?
about that. I just can't say I've touched my Twitter account in 6 months.
Oh, I see.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, you don't want people harassing you, and there's absolutely no reply.
Absolutely.
No, don't worry. I don't reply for a totally different reason. It's because I don't want to. But yeah, thank you very much for coming in. It's been great having you guys.
Thank you so much, Warren.
Right, so there's some
Thanks.
options for the bush. If you are tired of the usual kind of run-of-the-mill places, that's what you should be looking into. It's rareearth.co.za. That was Richard Delaray and Lauren Ritchie. Right.